Most people think buying a Japanese car is a guaranteed safe decision, but that's not how it actually works. Some models will run forever with barely any issues, while others slowly become expensive problems over time. So today we're breaking down the Japanese cars you should avoid, and the ones that truly deliver. And at the end of this video, 2 surprises are waiting for you. Let's begin. Number 3. Nissan Rogue, 2014-2017. At first glance, the 2014 to 2017 Nissan Rogue looks like exactly the kind of Japanese SUV people trust. It's practical, comfortable, fuel-efficient, and widely available at a reasonable price. But the biggest issue with this car isn't something you notice during a test drive, it's the long-term reliability of the transmission. These models use Nissan's CVT, and this specific generation has a very well-documented pattern of premature wear and failure. The problem isn't just that CVTs are different from traditional automatics, it's that this one in particular struggles with heat management and internal durability over time. Owners often start noticing small signs early on. Acceleration feels inconsistent, especially when merging or going uphill. There can be a delay between pressing the throttle and the car actually responding. Some report a high-pitched whining noise, which is a common indicator of internal belt and pulley wear inside the transmission. As mileage builds, those small symptoms tend to get worse. The transmission may begin to overheat, especially in stop-and-go traffic or hot climates. Once that happens, the car can enter a kind of limp mode, reducing power to protect itself. And in many cases, full failure isn't far behind. What makes this worse is the cost of repair. Replacing a CVT on a Rogue can easily run between $3,500 and $5,000, depending on labor and parts. And since many of these vehicles are bought as budget-friendly used SUVs, that kind of repair often doesn't make financial sense. Models from 2014 to 2017 are the most commonly affected, and while regular fluid changes can help extend the life of the transmission, they don't eliminate the underlying design limitations. That's the key point here. A reliable car shouldn't require perfect maintenance just to avoid major failure. So while the Rogue might seem like a safe, logical choice on paper, it's one of those Japanese cars that can quietly become a very expensive problem once the miles start adding up. Number 2. Subaru Forester, 2014-2018. The Subaru Forester is one of those vehicles people recommend without thinking twice. It has all-wheel drive, a solid reputation for safety, and that typical, reliable Japanese SUV image. But when you look closer at certain model years, especially from 2014 to 2018, there are a few underlying issues that make it far less dependable than people assume. The biggest concern here is the engine, specifically the 2.5L naturally aspirated boxer engine. These engines are known for excessive oil consumption, and not in a minor way. Some owners report needing to add oil between regular oil changes just to keep the engine properly lubricated, and if you're not constantly checking it, that can lead to serious internal damage over time. On top of that, Subaru paired these engines with a CVT that, while smoother than older designs, still isn't known for long-term durability under real-world driving conditions. It's not uncommon to see issues with hesitation, rough engagement, or premature wear as mileage increases, especially if the vehicle hasn't been maintained carefully. Another thing that often gets overlooked is maintenance cost. Subaru's boxer engine layout makes certain repairs more labor-intensive compared to inline engines. Simple jobs like spark plugs or gasket-related work can cost more than expected because of how tightly everything is packaged. And then there's the combination effect. Oil consumption plus a sensitive transmission plus higher maintenance complexity creates a situation where the car can become demanding to own as it ages. Not necessarily catastrophic in every case, but definitely not the low-effort reliability people expect. The 2014 to 2018 Forester isn't a terrible vehicle, but it's one of those Japanese cars that gets recommended based on brand reputation rather than actual ownership experience. And that's exactly where many buyers get caught off guard. Number 1. Nissan Altima, 2013-2018. The Nissan Altima from this generation is one of the most common Japanese sedans on the road. It's everywhere, it's affordable, and seems like a logical daily driver. But this is also one of the clearest examples of a car that looks reliable until you actually live with it long-term. The core issue, once again, comes down to the transmission. Just like the Rogue, these Altimas use Nissan's CVT, and this particular version has a long track record of early wear and failure. But what makes the Altima worse is how it's typically driven. Unlike SUVs, these sedans are often used more aggressively. Harder acceleration, more highway merging, more stop-and-go stress. and that puts even more strain on an already fragile system. The symptoms tend to follow a familiar pattern. At first, the car feels slightly off. Acceleration isn't as smooth as it should be. There's a delay when you press the gas, or a strange surge in RPMs without a matching increase in speed. Some drivers notice a shudder under load or a whining noise coming from the transmission area. As mileage builds, those issues don't stabilize, they escalate. The transmission can begin overheating, slipping, or losing power entirely. And in many cases, failure happens somewhere between 80,000 and 120,000 miles, which is far earlier than what most people expect from a Japanese car. Repair costs are where things really go downhill. Replacing the CVT can cost anywhere from $3,500 to over $5,000. And because these cars are often bought as budget-friendly options, many owners simply aren't prepared for that kind of expense. Models from 2013 to 2018 are especially known for these issues, and while later updates improved things slightly, the damage to this generation's reputation is already done. This is not a case of one bad unit. It's a consistent pattern across years and drivers. That's why, despite how common and accessible the Altima is, it stands as one of the worst Japanese cars you can buy if your goal is long-term reliability without headaches. So those are the ones you want to stay away from. Now, let's look at the Japanese cars that actually get it right. Number 4. Mazda 3, 2014-2018. The Mazda 3 from these years is one of those cars that doesn't get talked about enough when people discuss reliability. It doesn't have the same reputation as Toyota or Honda, but in real-world ownership, it consistently proves to be one of the most well-balanced and dependable compact cars you can buy. One of the biggest reasons for that is Mazda's Skyactiv engine technology. Unlike many manufacturers that downsized aggressively or relied heavily on turbocharging, Mazda kept things relatively simple. These engines are naturally aspirated with fewer components under stress, and that plays a big role in long-term durability. You're not dealing with high boost pressure, complex cooling demands, or fragile turbo systems that can fail over time. The 2.0L and 2.5L engines used in the 2014 to 2018 Mazda 3 are both known for being smooth, efficient, and capable of running well past 150,000 or even 200,000 miles with basic maintenance. Oil changes, filters, spark plugs, nothing unusual, nothing expensive. And more importantly, no widespread pattern of major mechanical failures. The transmission side is just as solid. These models use a traditional automatic transmission instead of a CVT, which already gives them an advantage in terms of long-term reliability. Shifts are predictable, wear is gradual, and you don't see the same kind of catastrophic failures that show up in some CVT-equipped competitors. Another thing that works in the Mazda 3's favor is how it ages. Many owners report that even after years of use, the car still feels tight, responsive, and well put together. There's less of that worn-out feeling that you sometimes get with other compact cars in the same segment. It might not have the brand hype of some other Japanese cars, but that's exactly why it's such a smart choice. It delivers reliability, simplicity, and a driving experience that holds up over time without demanding constant attention or expensive repairs. Number 3. Honda Accord, 2013-2017. The Honda Accord from this generation is one of those cars that gets recommended for a reason. It's not flashy, it's not trying to impress anyone, but when it comes to long-term reliability and everyday usability, it consistently delivers in a way few mid-size sedans do. What makes this Accord stand out is how well everything is balanced. The engines, especially the 2.4L inline-4, are known for being extremely durable with proper maintenance. These are not complicated engines. They're naturally aspirated, well-engineered, and proven over time. It's very common to see these cars comfortably reach 200,000 miles without any major internal issues. Even the V6 versions, while more powerful, tend to hold up well if they've been maintained correctly. The key difference compared to some competitors is that these engines don't rely on fragile components or overly complex systems that can become failure points later on. On the transmission side, most models use either a traditional automatic or a CVT, depending on the trim and year. Honda's CVTs from this period are generally more refined and reliable than what you see from brands like Nissan. They don't have the same widespread reputation for early failure, especially if fluid changes are done on time. Another strong point is ownership cost. Parts are widely available, labor is straightforward, and there's a massive knowledge base around these cars. Mechanics know them, owners trust them, and problems are usually predictable rather than sudden and catastrophic. What really sets the Accord apart, though, is how it feels over time. Even with higher mileage, these cars tend to remain smooth, quiet, and stable. You don't get that sense of things falling apart as quickly as you might in other vehicles. It's not the cheapest option up front, and it's not the most exciting car on paper. But if your goal is to own something that just works year after year without constant issues, the Accord from this generation is one of the safest bets you can make. Number 2. Toyota Camry, 2012-2017. You don't buy a Camry because it excites you. You buy it because you don't want problems, and this generation is exactly that kind of car. The 2.5L four-cylinder engine is the main reason. It's simple, naturally aspirated, and built around long-term durability rather than performance. There's no turbo putting extra stress on components, no complicated systems that tend to fail over time. It just runs and keeps running. It's very common to see these engines pass 200,000 miles with nothing more than basic maintenance done on time. Another big advantage is the transmission. Unlike many competitors from the same years, Toyota stayed with a traditional automatic instead of switching to a CVT. That matters more than people think. These gearboxes handle wear in a much more predictable way, and you don't see the same kind of sudden, expensive failures that show up in weaker transmission designs. Where this car really proves itself is over time. At 100k miles, it still feels normal. At 150k, it still does its job without complaints. Even past that, many units continue running without developing major mechanical issues. That kind of consistency is what most people are actually looking for, even if they don't say it directly. Ownership is also as straightforward as it gets. Parts are cheap, every mechanic knows how to work on it, and there are no hidden quirks that turn into expensive surprises later on. You're not constantly diagnosing weird issues or chasing problems that shouldn't exist. It's not the most exciting car you'll drive, and it doesn't try to be. But if the goal is to have something that starts every day, drives the same way year after year, and doesn't drain your wallet, this is exactly the kind of Japanese car that delivers. Number 1. Lexus RX, 2010-2015. There's a big difference between a car that's reliable and a car that stays solid no matter how many miles you put on it. And this Lexus RX is exactly that second type. Most of these models come with Toyota's 3.5L V6, an engine that's been used across multiple platforms and proven itself over time. It's not pushed hard, it doesn't rely on fragile components, and it's built with long-term use in mind. That's why it's not unusual to see these engines go well past 250,000 miles without major internal work. The transmission setup is just as important. Instead of using a CVT or anything experimental, Lexus sticks with a traditional automatic that handles power smoothly and predictably. You don't get the hesitation, overheating, or random failure patterns you see in weaker systems. It just does its job, year after year. What really separates the RX from most other SUVs, though, is how it ages. A lot of vehicles feel good when they're new, but start to fall apart as the miles add up. This one doesn't. Even with high mileage, the ride stays smooth, the cabin remains quiet, and everything still feels properly put together. You can find examples with over 150k miles that still drive like they've been taken care of from day one, even when they haven't had perfect maintenance. That's not luck. That's solid engineering and conservative design choices that prioritize durability over everything else. Maintenance is also more manageable than people expect. Yes, it's a Lexus, but underneath it shares a lot with Toyota. That means parts availability is good, repairs are straightforward, and you're not constantly dealing with unexpected issues. If your goal is to own something that feels good not just today, but years down the line, this is one of the clearest examples of a Japanese SUV that actually lives up to the reputation. And like I mentioned at the start, here are those two Japanese cars most people overlook, but consistently deliver where it actually matters. These are the two bonuses. Number 2, Honda CR-V, 2012-2016. If you're looking for a Japanese SUV that combines practicality with long-term reliability, this generation of the Honda CR-V is one of the safest choices you can make. It doesn't try to be flashy, and that's exactly why it holds up so well over time. The 2.4L four-cylinder engine used in these models is simple, proven, and built to last. It's naturally aspirated, which already reduces stress compared to turbocharged setups, and it doesn't rely on complicated systems that tend to fail as mileage increases. With regular oil changes and basic maintenance, it's very common to see these engines push past 200,000 miles without major issues. Another key advantage is the transmission. Unlike many competitors from the same era that switched to CVTs, this CR-V uses a traditional automatic. That makes a big difference in long-term ownership. You don't get the same kind of unpredictable behavior, overheating, or sudden failure that can turn a cheap SUV into an expensive problem. What really stands out, though, is how usable this car is on a daily basis. It has plenty of space, a comfortable ride, and a layout that makes it easy to live with. But more importantly, it keeps that same feel even as the miles add up. It doesn't fall apart quickly, and it doesn't develop constant small issues that make ownership frustrating. You'll find plenty of these on the road with high mileage that are still running smoothly, and that's not by accident. It's the result of a design focused on durability rather than pushing limits. It may not be the most exciting SUV in its class, but if you want something that works, keeps working, and doesn't surprise you with expensive problems, this is one of the most reliable Japanese options out there. Number 1. Toyota Corolla, 2014-2019. If your goal is to own a car that simply refuses to give you problems, this generation of the Toyota Corolla is one of the clearest examples of that mindset done right. It's not built to impress, it's built to last. The 1.8L four-cylinder engine is about as simple and proven as it gets. No turbo, no aggressive tuning, no unnecessary complexity. That matters more than people think. Fewer stressed components means fewer things that can fail over time. With basic maintenance, these engines regularly push well past 200,000 miles without any serious internal issues. Most models from these years come with a CVT, which might sound like a concern given how bad some CVTs can be. But Toyota's implementation is very different from what you see in weaker systems. It's tuned for smooth, low-stress operation rather than performance, and that helps it avoid the overheating and premature wear problems seen in other brands. As long as fluid changes are done on time, it tends to hold up well. Where the Corolla really stands out is ownership simplicity. Everything is predictable. Maintenance is cheap, parts are everywhere, and there are no hidden problem areas that suddenly turn into expensive repairs. You're not chasing issues, you're just driving the car. It's also one of those vehicles that ages slowly. Even with higher mileage, it continues to feel consistent. It may not be exciting, but it doesn't become frustrating either, which is something a lot of cars can't say after years of use. This isn't a car you buy for performance or luxury. It's a car you buy because you want something that starts every day, gets you where you need to go, and keeps doing that for years without drama. And in that sense, it's one of the most dependable Japanese cars you can own. So there you have it. Not all Japanese cars are built the same, and the difference really shows over time. If you pick the right one, you'll barely think about it for years. If you don't, it can turn into a constant headache. Choose carefully, pay attention to the details, and you'll save yourself a lot of trouble down the road. See you on the road, buddy.